We have talked about the new tab button, the library. We've talked about workspaces, the daily reading, instant details, analytics, and we left off with the info pane. So let's go ahead and start with that. So the info pane is basically a specialized pane within your search tab that instead of displaying a singular text or a singular commentary or whatever, will sort of aggregate information about your text, about the verse that you're looking at. And in accordance, the current verse is always the verse that's at the top of the window. Okay, so right now I'm looking at Genesis 22:2, even though I can see other verses. This is the one that Accordance knows to look at. And so what it's done is it's gone through and it has found every commentary that comments on Genesis 22:2. It's given me cross-references for Genesis 22:2. It has searched a topical database that we have and gives me topics related to this particular verse. This is a new feature in Accordance 12. The info pane was added in Accordance 11, I believe. But this is a new addition in Accordance 12. It's the word list. And so what it's doing is it's actually ranking the words in this particular verse according to how they're concentrated in Genesis as opposed to the rest of the Bible. It's basically using an algorithm to try to figure out, well, what are the key words in this passage? All right, so it gives me Isaac as a key word in this passage. Obviously, burnt offering, Moriah. Moriah is pretty unique to Genesis 22:2. And then son and love and so on. So those are the words that kind of get aggregated toward the top of the list. It's a really cool little feature, and I've already done on the blog. I did a little video tutorial on this and showed how it can show you some surprising results that, well, instead of telling you about it, let me show you. If I go to 2 Samuel 11:3, this is the passage about David and Bathsheba. And if we look at the word list, it's David sent and inquired about the woman, and someone said, "Is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" And when we look at the word list, we actually find that Uriah is ranked higher than Bathsheba. When you have the word list here, you can click on any of these items to do a quick search. So if I click on Uriah, I see, all right, well, there are 39 occurrences, and most of those occurrences are right here in 2 Samuel 11. They're all concentrated in this passage. And then you have a few sort of passing mentions in 1 Kings mentioning Uriah the Hittite, and then you get to Ahaz, and there's a Uriah the priest, so different Uriah. But Uriah figures very prominently in 2 Samuel 11. If we go back and look at Bathsheba, she's only mentioned by name 11 times, and only once in 2 Samuel 11. She's mentioned again in 2 Samuel 12 by name. And then she's mentioned in 1 Kings when she's, the sort of the chief queen and involved in Solomon's accession. So in terms of this passage, we can see it's true. Uriah figures more prominently than Bathsheba does. Of course, if we were to go into commentaries, we'd see they aren't surprised by this. The passage really is much more focused on the story of David and Uriah, the contrast between Uriah's righteousness and David's unrighteousness, than it is the story of David and Bathsheba. Bathsheba is a necessary actor in the drama, but the narrator is not interested in, well, what were her motivations and what was she feeling and what were her reactions, and it's not interested in that. It's interested in highlighting David's sin by contrasting it with Uriah's righteousness. Yeah.
In terms of kind of scope of parameters, the fact that it gets really strong.
Uh-huh.
On the info pane, it says info for 2 Samuel 11:3, but I guess the word list is more than just that verse.
Right. What the word list is doing is it's taking every word in 2 Samuel 11:3 and essentially doing a series of sort of behind-the-scenes searches to get its concentration. And it's sort of looking at two different poles. On the one hand, it's looking for unique words, words that are unique to this particular passage. So, if we were to look at Eliam, for example, Eliam is actually ranked higher than Bathsheba. But when we do a search for Eliam, he only appears 2 times. Bathsheba appears 11 times in the entire Bible. So on the one hand, it's looking for frequent words, because the more frequently the word is used in a passage, the more important it is, right? But it's also looking for unique words, and it's sort of got some algorithm that's way beyond my pay grade, where it's trying to sort of balance those two factors. So in this case, Eliam is ranked higher than Bathsheba because it's more unique to this particular passage. It only appears here and in 2 Samuel 23. In some respects, Bathsheba is kind of being dragged down in the rankings because she appears more frequently in another passage. And excuse me, my... Right. Right. All right. So that's kind of how the word list is doing it. But it's a great way to identify key words in a passage and see, for example, notice sent figures even more than Uriah does. And you can see I've already highlighted this in another demonstration, where in this passage, in 2 Samuel 11, you have sent appearing numerous times. And it really does become a key word in the passage, because David is normally the man of action. But in this passage, he's the man of intrigue. He's the man who's sending intermediaries to do all his dirty work for him. And so you really see a character change in David in this passage. Yeah?
I didn't understand your answer. So here, what is the search field for the word list? So is the search field, David is first in the search field of what? The Old Testament?
It's basically taking every word in this list is every word in this verse, this one verse. All right, so
David's number 1 in that verse.
Of the words in the verse, it's ranking those words by how tightly they're concentrated in this particular passage. I'm struggling for a way to say it that's mathematically correct. But basically what it's doing is it's searching for David in the entire Bible. And then it's kind of using its algorithm to assess, the concentration of David in this particular passage as opposed to the rest of the Bible. And when you get into, common names like that, that's harder for me to explain than why Eliam is higher than Bathsheba, but and I'd have to talk to the programmers to get a real clear answer. But basically, it's sort of trying to hold up the uniqueness of a word in a passage and its frequency in that particular passage and balance those two things. If it only went by frequency, and you can actually do this, you can go in and do the count. So this is now ranking all the words by their frequency, by how many times they're used in the Bible. And we can see that it's bubbled up all the common words to the top, because those are the words that are used most frequently. So you need something to sort of filter out the common words. And so they kind of use this uniqueness scale, which results in what we call the concentration. So it's basically, if you were to want to try and get into the numbers and really pick this thing apart, you probably could. It's it's really just sort of an algorithm that's trying to assess what are the words that are most likely to be important in this passage and bubble those up to the top. So, your mileage may vary. It's a computer trying to assess importance, and it's going to make decisions based on numbers of search results, not necessarily based on what we would see in the meanings of those words. So you may see some things that you go, well, that's odd. That doesn't make sense. Feel free to throw it out. But you may find, as in the case of Uriah, that you do stumble across something that's important, or sent, which becomes very important in this passage as a whole. Okay? Does that make sense? Anyway, it's a cool little feature. If you play with it, I think you'll be pleased with some of the things that it enables you to discover. And then another thing that we've done in Accordance 12 is we've broken out study Bibles and grammars so that you can explore what those have to tell you about the passage. And before I get into study Bibles and grammars, let me go back to the commentaries. I was kind of racing you through all the different things that are in the info pane. But with the commentaries, it gives me the book covers for the 10 commentaries that are at the top of my list of commentaries. And I can hover over the book cover to get a little bit of the commentary to sort of preview it. Or I can click and hold to get the little instant details pop over. And then I may see, oh, okay, great, that looks interesting. I'll go ahead and click that. And then it will actually open EBC as a pane, and I can read that particular commentary and read along. So it's really designed to bring up the commentaries on that particular passage that are going to be most helpful. And then you can explore them further. Well, we do the same thing now with study Bibles, because study Bibles are sort of further down the list of commentaries, but they're a useful kind of first pass commentary. And so we now have study Bibles and even grammars. And the grammars, it may seem kind of odd to have grammars commenting on a passage, but sometimes you'll find gems like this. In Pratico and Van Pelt's Hebrew grammar, it starts to talk about the wife of Uriah the Hittite, and it goes into all the different ways that Bathsheba is referred to in this passage. And it points out, she's only referred to by name once. She's referred to as the woman or the wife most often. The wife is used most often. So her relationships to other people are what's emphasized in the passage, and the grammar kind of brings that out. So you find this interesting commentary that you might not otherwise have found through the info pane. Yeah.
You had mentioned most helpful. I thought that the display of the books in that were dependent upon the order that you had put in your library. Has that changed?
No. In fact, that's a beautiful segue. I could have planted you to help me out. So the commentaries that are coming up in the order that I have them installed in my Accordance library. And what I have found is that once you start using the info pane, you may actually want to sort of rethink how you organize your commentaries. Here's what I've done. In my library, under commentaries, let's just go to tools, commentaries. I previously had my sort of expository commentaries and then my technical commentaries. Now, the way I use commentaries is, I basically try to use them as little as possible and only when I really need them. So I'll begin with the text itself, and I will, my first pass commentary is going to be something when I just want a little help. If I'm in a passage and I'm kind of going, well, I don't quite understand what this is saying. I just sort of want a brief overview, tell me what's going on, and then I can get into it further. If I get stuck on a more technical issue, that's when I will turn to my more technical commentaries. But let's face it, there's more of an investment with those commentaries. You you've got to read pages and pages of text, usually on one verse, just to understand all the issues involved. So I will sort of go in kind of concentric circles from, least detailed commentaries to most detailed commentaries. So I had all my expositional commentaries first, then my technical commentaries. What I found was that some of the commentaries that I find most helpful are the specialized one-volume commentaries. For example, Waltke, I just taught through Genesis, and Waltke's commentary on Genesis is wonderful. It's sort of written from a literary criticism kind of perspective, and I found it really helpful. And but what I tended to do was I would have all my full commentary sets at the top of the list, and then I'd have all the partial, commentaries down at the bottom. And so those were never coming through. I'd never get Waltke on Genesis when I was in Genesis. So what I did was created a folder that I call Specialized Partial. And the reason I have both names is because some of these are partial commentaries on Genesis, Philippians, Sermon on the Mount, and so on. Some of them are specialized commentaries, like New Testament use of the Old Testament. So Beale and Carson, where they're going into commenting on New Testament, places where the New Testament quotes the Old Testament, and how are they using it, and so on. Well, that's really granular. That's not even a single book. That's individual passages within, books. And so by putting that in this folder here, it comes up when I happen to be in a passage where the New Testament is quoting the Old Testament. And when it's not, those commentaries just get skipped anyway. So it's not like having these here at the top of my list is pushing down my main commentaries. If it's not on a passage that they cover, I go to my main commentaries anyway. The other thing I've done is put at the very top, I've got how to study book by book. This is Gordon Fee and Douglas Stewart's kind of, it's basically, aimed at lay Bible readers, and it's sort of meant to give you kind of a brief outline of the lay of the land of a particular passage. And so it's sort of laid out like a commentary, but it's just, here's what's going on in this group of 10 verses or this wider passage and so on. So that's my widest concentric circle, because sometimes that's all I need is just an orientation to, okay, what's the literary context of this passage? Okay, now I understand what's going on. So I've put that at the very top, and then I've got my specialized partial commentaries, and then I've got my expository commentaries. Now, even this system isn't perfect because right now, I've got so many expository commentaries, I never really get down to my technical commentaries. So in the info pane, I can keep adding commentaries. Let's see, if I keep clicking the plus icon. All right, now I've gotten, so when I add about 20, 25 commentaries, now I'm getting to some of my more technical commentaries. So I can get to them easily through the info pane. You can also customize the appearance of the info pane and say, you know what, I always want 20 or 25 commentaries to show. Okay, I've got it set to 10 because I don't want it to be clogged with all those book covers. And you can also just uncheck the book covers, and then you just get a list, and you can hover over the names of each commentary in the list. So you've got ways to customize your info pane to give you the information that you want. All right. So that's the info pane. If you're not using it, I'd recommend you start using it. Under topics, oh, by the way, another change in Accordance 12 is that I believe we've set the info pane to become the default. So it will actually open with any new Bible window. We're sort of doing that to make it more discoverable, but it sort of threw me for a loop when I first started using 12 because I'd always have the info pane opening on every new Bible tab, and sometimes I didn't want that. So you can actually go into the preferences, and let's see, I think in search tabs, it's this add info pane. So if I check this, anytime I open a new search tab, the info pane will be included. I found that I didn't want it all the time, so I turned it off. Okay, so just be aware of that. All right, under topics, so we've talked about the commentaries, cross-references. You can hover over any of these to see them, or you can click to see one, or I think you can command click to see them all. Yeah, so I just command clicked on one of those, and now I have all those cross-references that I can read through. The topics, you have, in addition to the main topics, we have categories like person, people, place, text, and then you have atlas and timeline. And so you can actually find key sites that are mentioned in a passage in the atlas right from the info pane. So if I click on Rabbah, it will find Rabbah on the map for me. Rabbah is the place where the Israelite army was going to fight while David was staying in Jerusalem and so on. Okay? And you can look up people on the timeline the same way. We talked about the word list, study Bibles, grammars. You even have critical apparatus and manuscript images. So that's interesting. So here's the page from the Leningrad Codex of 2 Samuel 11 that contains 2 Samuel 11:3, and I can zoom in if I want to get into text critical kind of stuff. All right, so that's the info pane.
I'm not seeing some like the Atlas feature, I'm not seeing show up on mine. I'm also not seeing some of my resources populating in the...
Okay. I'll have to take a look at the resources question. And the atlas and the timeline, I'm not sure. Okay.
How did you pull up the Leningrad?
Down at the very bottom of the info pane, we actually have manuscript images. So if you have one of those modules, then that will show up. So for example, here are all these different critical apparatuses. You may have one or two of those, not all of those, but they'll be there, and so you can very quickly check the critical apparatus for that verse as well. All right, so the other thing about the info pane, the nice thing that we've added in 12 is I can rearrange the items in my info pane. So if I need the critical apparatuses front and center, I can move those up to the top if I want. And so now I'll get my text critical information at a glance as I scroll through the text. Okay, so you can rearrange your info pane. We need to add a way to get it back to the default, because I think once you've moved it, that's what it is for all your info pane displays. All right. And you can, of course, close any of these if you don't want the topics. Just close the topics and so on.
Along with what you just mentioned, is there any way to just back up one step and kind of like a back button?
Well, there are back buttons in certain settings, but no. One of the things that we've talked about doing is making some kind of universal thing that would track everything you've gone to, but we just haven't done it yet.
Dave, you have to open the topic section.
Oh, right. Okay, so you just have the topics closed. All right, so the atlas and the timeline are under topics. All right. All right, so that's the info pane. The highlights button lets you highlight any text that you're looking at. So, you know, it's if you want to highlight something, select it, and then click on the highlights icon, and then you can choose the color that you want to highlight. Okay, and if you want to clear it, you can clear it. All right, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you scroll down, let's see. Why isn't it giving me the image highlights? Oh, show symbols. I want to show the symbols. I may have found a little bug here. It's when I all right, what's going on? There are symbols, and I saw them up here.
I'm getting only symbols and no highlights.
Huh.
There's a high symbol under the here menu. If you have high symbols,
Yeah, I'm doing show symbols, but it's not recognizing that I want to see the symbols. So we may have found a little bug in 12. But there are also symbols that you can add to see. I teach a high school English class, and I'll have the kids go through Exodus. Well, let's do Exodus 8. I'll have them go through Exodus 7 through 11, the plagues, and sort of look at the different patterns and the different things that get included in each of the plague cycles. And so you can see I've used a symbol here so I can find the beginning of each plague. And then I've got different symbols that I've used for the magicians and when Pharaoh calls Moses and Aaron and so on.
Dave,
So
when you have done this on whatever window or page you're in, does that stay there forever in your, where you put that passage?
until I get rid of it. Although, so, you know, I can select this and I can clear any of it out.
Did you save it somewhere else?
You can,
You know, a blank one?
well, can I save it somewhere else? Yes, I could print this to PDF. I believe it'll print the highlighting. You know, you can do things to get it out of there. But if you want to, if you use highlighting, you know, the downside of using highlighting in a print Bible is once it's there, right? And so, you know, you find that once you've highlighted something, it sort of colors your reading of the text ever afterwards. And so sooner or later, you get to the point where you go, I need a new Bible, and you know, you get a fresh, clean Bible. So in software, we can have the best of both worlds, where you can do your highlighting. You can actually create different highlight sets. So these are my Exodus highlights. If I switch to another set of highlights, let's do college highlights. This is actually, now it's showing the symbols. So go figure. So you can see now they've disappeared because I didn't highlight this. My college highlights are, I've got my old college Bible that I did highlighting in, and I you know, thought, well, it'd be kind of fun to have all that. So I've been gradually adding those highlights in to Accordance so that I can see what I was thinking when I was in college. And so anyway, that's what the college highlights are. But I hadn't highlighted anything here, so you don't see anything in that highlight set. So you can use multiple highlight sets to show and hide the highlights. But even if I've got the highlight set that does show something, I can always hide my highlights by going into Set Text Pane Display and then just going into Advanced, and I can hide the verse or the word highlighting. All right, so if I do that, I'm temporarily turning it off.
Where was the first click?
The first one was verse highlighting. Verse highlighting is, let me show those again. Let me turn them back on. All right, so right now, all of these are examples of word highlighting. I've highlighted words in a particular translation. If I select the verse reference, if I can select the verse reference, and do a highlight style, it will highlight the whole verse. And not only that, if I add a parallel pane, you'll see that it's highlighted in, well, HCSB isn't a good example because I've duplicated that highlighting. But here you can see NIV, I hadn't highlighted this translation at all. But because I did verse highlighting, it's highlighted in the NIV as well. So when I turn it off in Set Text Pane Display, I can go and hide the verse highlighting but leave the word highlighting. And so that got rid of the yellow highlight on verse 5. But notice it keeps it in the NIV because I haven't turned it off in this text. Okay. And then if I go in again, Set Text Pane Display, and turn off word highlighting, that will hide all the highlighting. Yeah.
How do you get other colors out? The only thing I've got is all these crazy little characters here.
And then a yellow.
And then the yellow.
Right. You would go into highlights and do this little gear here. Go to define highlight styles. And then you can add a new style and give it a color and an intensity and a shape and so on. Okay? All right, so that's highlighting. The last thing I want to show you on highlighting is the if you do a search. For example, let's look again at 2 Samuel 11. All right, and I guess I hid all the highlighting, haven't I? I didn't turn it back on. Yeah. All right, so here you can see I highlighted all the sins. And you know, you can do that by going through and selecting words. Let's do let's see if house is, no, house is not highlighted here. One of the things that's interesting about this passage, another key word in this passage, is the use of the word house. And so David arose from his couch and was walking on the roof of the king's house. Okay, so I might highlight that and give it, you know, I don't know, we'll do the pink or something. And then I go through and I see, you know, there should be another example. He calls David and he says, go down to your house. All right, and so I might highlight that again. You can also, a keyboard shortcut that's helpful if you do a lot of highlighting is Command 8, which will highlight with the last style that you chose. So I can kind of go through and I can quickly highlight all the houses. But an easier way to do that is to actually search for that particular word. So I'm going to select the word house, and I'm going to go over to the amplify button on the toolbar. And again, the amplify lets me automatically search for any word or verse or anything that I select in accordance. And so it's a quick way to do a search without having to go up and type in the top, you know, search entry and tweak all these knobs and so on. And so the first item in the amplify menu is search whatever text you're in. So right now I'm in the ESV, so it says search ESV. And if I choose that, it's going to search for every occurrence of the word house. Now I'm really only interested in 2 Samuel 11. Well, we'll just do it. Well, no, I don't think I want to do it. So I'm only interested in 2 Samuel 11, the passage that I'm studying. So I'm actually going to modify this search and add a search command. And I'm going to show you more of these in a little bit. But under the search menu, Anything that you need to enter a search is right there in the search menu. So you are never in the dark in terms of what your options are. You've always got all of the search commands that you can use, and they're all listed there with their keyboard shortcuts. Even the those arcane symbols that you can use, the wildcards and so on, we list all those in a menu with a little text label to help you to remember what those things are for. So you don't have to be a programming guru and remember all of these weird things. They're all right there. So I'm going to go into Enter Command, and I'm going to choose the Range command, which is a simple little command that lets me narrow down the range of my search. So I just want to search for house in 2 Samuel 11. All right, and so now each occurrence of the word house is highlighted in the red. That means it's been found by the search. The text color has been changed to indicate that it's a search result. But you can see not all of my occurrences of house have been highlighted in this highlighting style. So I can actually go into the highlights and I can highlight the hits from a search. It just tells me shift equals hits. So if I hold down the shift key and then click that highlight style, it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to highlight all the hits? And I say okay. And now it's highlighted all of those other results from the search. So this is a really nice way to mark up keywords in a text, or if you're very quickly wanting to search for all the verbs in a Greek passage so you can quickly identify all the verbs in your passage or something like that. You can do a search and then shift and highlight all the verbs one color or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you might get to this later, but is there an easy way to export your highlights into a file that you can print?
You can.
Yeah, Greek words that you weren't sure of and wanted to create a word study list. If you export your highlights into something and have it as a separate.
You can, if you want to export the words that have been highlighted, you can search by the highlighting. But let's do this. Another one of these search commands is the style command. And so you can search for the style. What was that style? Know the Lord. All right, so I can search for that style, and it's going to pull up every word that's been, or every verse that contains that highlight style, but it doesn't give me the it doesn't give me a listing of all the words that have been highlighted in that style, the analytics. You would still have to, I could search for house or something like that. I guess I need to do and. All right, and that's highlighting the words. Now I have 11 hits, and I can view the analytics and go to something like the analysis and get a list of all the words that were found. But I'll ask me that question again when we get to Greek and Hebrew, and I'll show you ways to do it, but not with highlighting. So yeah.
I just wanted to interject and comment on something you said before, because when we were looking at the word list, you were saying that based on that Uriah was more talked about. But the thing is, we need to make sure that we're looking at all of the words that are related to somebody, because in this passage, Bathsheba isn't just referred to as Bathsheba, she's referred to as woman, she, herself, and the daughter of Eli.
Right.
So it could be a
Sure, and that's the thing. These tools are designed to sort of, bubble up data on the passage that may make you go, wait a minute, what's going on there? But you still have to do your due diligence and make sure that you're taking everything into account. So yes, it's misleading to say she's not important in the passage. She certainly is. But the fact that she's not mentioned by name is exegetically kind of significant. And so those are the kinds of things that you'd want to bring out in a sermon or in a paper or whatever that you're doing. All right, but yes, great point. All right, so we've talked about highlighting. That's how you would even search on your highlighting and use the results of a search to highlight. The add to stack, do I want to get into that yet? Sure, why not? All right, so if I'm in the course of my research, one of the things that we've tried to do in Accordance 12 is bridge the gap between the research that you're doing and the composition that you're going to do, what you're going to do with that research. The final product that you're going to create, whether it's a sermon or a paper or a book or whatever it is that you're doing. And so the first step in that is the creation of what we call the stack. And the stack is a convenient place to sort of store your research. All right. So let's say that I want to, I'll just take this passage right here. I'm going to select this passage, and I'm going to click Add to Stack. And what it does is it gives me that passage, quotation, added to an area that lets me collect research. And it's stuck this passage at the bottom of my stack. The current stack that I have is one that I created called 2 Samuel 11 Sermon. So it actually goes with other stuff that I've already did for a recent video. But you can see you can have pictures. This is from the Bible Lands Photo Museum. This is Venus, a statue of Venus caught surprised bathing, but it's kind of illustrative if you wanted a visual. And then this is something from the Photo Museum that talks about David's age at the time of his adultery with Bathsheba. And so you can see I've got my selection of text that I selected and added to the stack. And then I've added my own little notes here. So when I saw a little thing that said David was 50, I typed in there midlife crisis, ? So you've also got your source. So if I click on the source, it should, there we go, pull up that article that I got the information from, so I can read it in context and so on. So this becomes like a little hub where you can collect your research and get back to it and so on. So here, I did this passage, and I might want to add my own note here and say, look how frequently house is used in this paragraph. All right, and so now I know why I added that particular bit of text. Okay, let's go back to, let me click on the Photo Museum again. And again, it's being slow because of the recording software, I think. Come on. All right, I know in the Photo Museum, before it talks about David's adultery with Bathsheba, it talks about his conquest of Jerusalem, and 2 Samuel 7, where David wants to build a house to the Lord, and God says, no, I'm going to build you a house. And there's this great wordplay, I want to build a house, a temple. And God says, no, I'm going to build you a house, meaning a dynasty. And so anyway, that's one of the reasons that I think house figures so prominently in 2 Samuel 11. Because God has already promised to establish David's house. And David is now robbing another man's house to enrich his own. And he's really lost his way. So I might want to use that in my sermon. So I might use the Tell Dan inscription here, which has House of David in Paleo Hebrew. And so here I've got a picture. How do I add that to my stack? Well, you can go into the selection menu and do add selection to stack and then current stack, or I can choose any of my other stacks. And now that picture has been added to the stack with the caption. And I can, I might say use for slideshow.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
how did you pull up sermon and photo museum?
I actually clicked on Photo Museum here in my stack because I'd already gotten something from it. So I just happened to know that something was there nearby, and so I clicked on the source icon here. Well, I mean, anybody who's got one of the graphics packages, the new graphics package, I think should have it. If you don't, you need to get it. I'm going to give you my personal plug for the Photo Museum later. That's my baby that I've been working on. So anyway, I could have also just opened the Photo Museum from the new menu and so on.
How did you get the window that says 2 Samuel 11? So
That came up when I added this passage to my stack. So I selected this passage, clicked Add to Stack. Let's do it again. Or, you know what? Without adding to the stack, I can open my current stack by Control or right-clicking on the Add to Stack button. Well, wait a minute. Or if I just click and hold. Click and hold, you can open the current stack. And you can also create a new stack that way. So, if you want to have a stack for Sunday sermon and a stack for, Wednesday night Bible study, or a stack for, your OT class paper and your NT class paper, and so on. You can create multiple stacks and use those. All right. It's just a repository for information that you find in the course of your study. So it's whatever you make it. So you can also create your own user items. So if I want to add points, let's say as I'm gathering all this information, I want to add, be sure to reference 2 Samuel 7 and God's promise to build David a house. All right, so when I'm done with that, another cool thing is I believe, well, let's see, it didn't do it. Let's do 7, 1 through 20 or something, I don't know. Let's see if it does it now. It's supposed to, I believe, but maybe that's just in the paper and not in the stack. Accordance should recognize a scripture reference and actually highlight it, but it's not doing it in the stack, so maybe I'm mistaken on that. But one of the new features in Accordance 12 is that it will, in various places, start to pick up where scripture references are and automatically hyperlink those for you so that you can get to them. Yeah.
Similar to a user note, but with more functionality or more.
Right. Your user notes are tied to a particular verse, and they're basically, text annotations that it's like creating your own running commentary. This is like, basically dog-earing a bunch of pages in a bunch of different books and saying, okay, I'm going to use this, and I want to use this, and I want to use this, and I want to use this. All right.
How do I open up Photo Museum?
If you own it, it will be under your visual tools. And so here's my Photo Museum 2, which is the current Photo Museum.
Can I import text?
So I just click on it?
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
Can I import text from outside into the stack?
You can certainly copy and paste stuff. So yeah, you, copy and paste and then create a new user item and paste it in. Let's see, you'd probably, it doesn't have it won't give you the source, but you could put in the web address or whatever if you were, copying from a web page or something in the note section. Okay, so the stack is a really cool new feature of Accordance 12, and then the next step in the creation of items is what we call the paper, which is where you can actually begin to compose items. So I'm going to go ahead and just close my stack, and I will do, let's see, if we go to new, it will, under the new tab, you'll get a list of all your recently created papers. But then to create papers, I'm trying to remember where to do it. Go to, no. I know we had a discussion about where to put all this stuff, and I can't remember. If you go to the File menu and go to User Files, I know you can do New Paper right there. All right, and so there are other ways to do it too, but we'll do that. And so you can choose from a template, the default outline, a blank, a lecture, a lesson. There are different kinds of sermons, deductive sermon. I might do storytelling sermon. All right, I'm preaching through an Old Testament narrative. So I'll go ahead and double click this, and then it's got an outline here, and I can go ahead and open my stack from within the paper, and so I can fill in my outline. So here's my cast of characters. I'm gonna introduce my congregation to the cast of characters. So obviously the first character is going to be David. So I'm going to add a new sub-item, and I'll do David here. And then in the contents, I might drag the, let's see, if I drag this under David, it pulls in David's adultery with Bathsheba, but I want this to be another sublevel. So I'm going to bounce this over. Now this is A under David and so on. So it's basically an outline creation tool that you can use to begin composing your sermon. I could do, let's do another one. If I add new item, that should stay at that level. And no, I don't want it at that level. I want it back one, and we'll do Bathsheba. All right, and then I might grab that picture of Bathsheba and drag it in there. And trying to find the right target. There we go. No, I didn't. Need to move it over one more, and so on. So you've got your tool that you can use, and you have different types of information that you can display. So you can show the title, you can show the summary. So the summary would be, if I want to give a summary of each point. All right, let's say that I'm going to create multiple documents. I'm going to create a full-blown sermon manuscript that I'm going to publish to my church website that people can download. That will be a full text manuscript. But I don't like to preach from a full text manuscript because that gets a little stilted. So what I want when I'm preaching is an outline that has just sort of a series of abstract notes on each point, and then I'm going to kind of see that. That'll help me, but I'm mostly going to speak extemporaneously. So you've got all of these different options. So I can, have my contents that would be you know, in this passage, blah, 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 and I'd go on and on and on. That would be the full text of my sermon. But then my explanation would be talk about thus and such. And so, you know, those are my notes to myself. And so then I can hide the different kinds of information. I can say, you know what, when I want to print the manuscript, show the content, but don't show the summary. And then I'll have a full-blown manuscript. Or show the summary and don't show the content. Now I've got my notes. And I'm sorry the text is really, really small. I'm sure that's impossible to read from the back of the room. But so you can scale the text up. And so you can create your own item. You've also got notes that you can add. So, you know, I might have a note, if I display the notes, I might say, you know, click to slide 3 or something like that. So I've got notes that I don't really want as part of my explanation, but they're helpful in the presentation and so on. So that's what the paper is really designed to be for you. And I'm just skimming the surface. But.
I'm sorry if I missed it. On the stacks, for as you're loading stuff in, can you move stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the stack itself, I'm going to go ahead and open the stack here, and I'll just magnify that zone.
How did you pull up the paper?
The paper, I went into into the file menu, user files, new paper. Okay, so it's a little bit down there. I think if we go into the library, let's go down to my stuff, my papers. There may be, no, it just has your papers there. Right, you could create a keyboard shortcut. You could add papers to the toolbar. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to control click on the toolbar or right click on the toolbar and do customize toolbar. And then help me out here. Where's the papers? Bottom left, thank you. All right, so I can drag the papers icon into my toolbar. And now click done, and I can add a new paper that way. That's probably the best way most convenient way to do it if you're going to be using that feature a lot. All right. All right, so the stack, in organizing the stack, I didn't want to do that. Let's just open current stack, and I'm just going to magnify that zone so we're just focusing on the stack. I can grab an item and drag it up or down. Let's see. I think I can drag it up and down. There we go, to rearrange them. I can also favorite an item, basically give it a gold star, and then that becomes something that of all the stuff that I've added, I definitely want to use. Oh, you know, so I can gather all this research and then go through and say, okay, I want to use that. No, maybe that's for another sermon, and so on. And then you can sort your stack by newest date. So what did I add most recently? Or I can sort by title, and so that's going to give me the passages first, and then module name, so I can do it by the modules that I used. So it's giving me my new user items first, and then the text, and then the tools. Okay. Or I can do sort by importance, and that's your gold star that you gave. So that'll bubble up that stuff to the top. Okay. All right. So how are we doing for time?
This is a quick question on papers, and we can come back to this later. Is there a way then to export these? Because you talked about creating different versions, particularly for a handout, but that's only helpful if you can.
Right. You can copy and paste. You can, let's see, what's that Untitled for? You should be able to copy and paste. You should be able to print as a PDF. Trying to think of other ways to export. And that I'm I know, well, let's see. You can save a paper as a template, but I'm trying to think of export options. Yeah, you can print as PDF. I'll have to get back to you on that because I know we planned export options, but I don't remember what they are and where they are. If I do save as text file, I can save it as plain text and PDF. I don't know that we have export options to HTML or XML or anything like that yet, but you can do RTF and then bring that into Word. And, yes.
You know what you may want to do, you opened up that stack, I think it highlighted, did it change it?
I'm sorry.
Go back, little freehand note you may want to do when you put scripture verse in there.
Uh-huh.
On your stack, the one you just recommend. I think once you make it, if you close it, come back, it'll make it highlighted.
Okay. All right, let me open my stack here again. All right, let's see. No, and it may be the colon behind it that's throwing it off. I'm wondering if that's the case.
Sometimes you can make it short so you close it.
All right, so if I close it and reopen it, didn't want to do that. Open current stack. Where am I? Well, the problem is I don't have my instant details when I'm viewing it this way. All right, let's see here. Not enough space. Oop. All right, let's try this again. No, it's still not doing it. I must be doing something different than, maybe it's not recognizing 2 Samuel. Right, you'd have to do it yourself on user tools, but I don't know. I know that it's been done. I don't know exactly where and can't remember exactly where. And you'll have to forgive me. I'm still learning Accordance 12 too. So, all right. So we've done the stack. We've done the paper. There's obviously more, but you get the idea. Then user tools and user notes we have on the toolbar so that you can access those. I'm not going to get into those right now. We've talked about the amplify button. Let's talk a little more about what you can do with amplifying. So when I showed you how I selected the word house and then went to the amplify icon and did search ESVS. When I did that, it searched for the word house, right? However, if I'm in a text that has additional information, I can actually access additional information and amplify that. For example, if let's give you a good example in the, if I add parallel and I add the HCSB, let's go back to 2 Samuel 11. In the HCSB, it's a more idiomatic translation. It translates king's house into palace. So if I were to search for palace, the English word, I might miss the fact that it's the Hebrew word bayit, which means house. And I'd only see, oh, well, there are half a dozen references to palace and half a dozen references to house, but not realize there are about a dozen references to house. So a more accurate way to search would be to search by Strong's number so that I can see the Hebrew word that underlies the English. And I can do that by selecting the word, and when I click on the Amplify menu, just hold down the Option key and that will search for the key number instead of the word. All right, now in Windows, what's the equivalent to the Option key? Is that the Alt key? Yeah, so it's Alt in Windows. But you can see it actually, now that's interesting, it did a search for both key numbers because the word for palace is tagged with both the key number for house and king. All right, so it found both of those. All right, so anyway, you use the option key for that. If you can't remember option key for amplify, then just use the right click. If you right click or control click on a word, the first item will be search for, and that will search the current text for either the word or the key number. And so you can choose it there. So I'm going to show you things where I show you the option key because I'm used to doing it that way. But always remember the contextual menu because it'll help you to see all of these options without having to remember, oh, what key was that I had to hold? All right. All right, so that's one trick with the amplify menu. Let's switch to Greek or Hebrew, and let's see. Yeah, let's just do Greek. All right, so in Greek, if I select a word, in Greek and Hebrew, each word is tagged with its lexical form. So you can see here we've got Christou and then Christos, which is the lexical form, the form you'd look up in a dictionary, the nominative singular form. And when I select a word and go to the Amplify menu and search the current text, it's going to search by lexical form because it assumes that's what I want. It assumes that I don't just want to find Christos in the genitive singular. It assumes I want to find every occurrence of that word. So it searches by lexical form by default. If, however, I want to find a particular inflection, I want to just search for Christou, I can select it and Option or Alt amplify. And that will set up my search to just find that particular form. Okay, so the option amplify will look for whatever the secondary kind of information is. And again, if I can't remember that, control or right click on a Greek word and you'll see the option to search for the lexeme or the inflected form or the root or the tag. Okay, so be aware that you've got these kinds of options, and especially with Greek and Hebrew, especially if you're a student or you're new to accordance, you're just getting used to the keyboard and trying to figure out, okay, how do I type a C and that sort of thing. The easiest way to search when you're in the text and you see something that you want to search is to select it and then use the Amplify menu. So in Hebrew, for example, let's just open up the Hebrew here. And let's do Hashemayim ve'et haaretz. All right, I want to search for that. Well, what a lot of people will do, a lot of Hebrew students will do, the first thing they'll do is they'll just copy that and they'll go up into the search bar and they'll kind of paste it in. All right, when they do that, what they're doing is pasting in inflected forms, right? They're pasting in the inflected form of the word as it appears in the text. What accordance expects when you do a search is the lexical form. So it's either going to give me an error message here, or it's going to switch to letters, and we'll see what happens. All right, so it said the text you entered can't be found. Would you like to search with literal search? And literal search is an option we added in Accordance 11, which just searches for that string of characters. And so if I say, okay, yeah, go ahead and search, then it finds it with the literal search. If I insisted that it had to search by words, then what I would have to do is actually go in here and, if I, well, here's what used to happen. It would flag this word, Hashemayim, and it'd say, I don't recognize that word. And I'd have to know, oh, well, Hashemayim is really two words. It's the definite article ha, and then it's Shemayim, right? And then it would flag, well, it might accept Shemayim, but then it would flag Ve'et, and I'd have to go, oh, that's two words too. The V is the conjunction and so I'd have to put a space in there and split it up, and so on. So we've now sort of gotten around that with the letters, the literal search, and so users don't have this problem anymore. But anyway, what I would always encourage users to do is just select the text and then just do the amplify and let accordance format the search for you. And notice here it's searched by words, but it's broken up all those words into their constituent parts and given the lexical forms of those words and so on. So the more you let accordance do the work for you, the less likely you are to become frustrated because, a vowel point's out of place or something, you didn't type a vowel point right or an accent right or something like that. So, if you're looking for text as you see it, just select it and do the search. But later after lunch, I'll go into how to do Greek and Hebrew searching and so on. Do you have a question? I'm seeing arms waving, but maybe that's...
Could you run through that sequence again of doing the multi-word search?
Yeah. Run through the sequence that...
The selection of the text to rather than the...
All right, so I selected it. When I just click, when I just copy it and paste it up at the top, then it's going to tell me it can't find that string of characters because it's actually thinking in terms of breaking these up into their constituent parts. So it'll say, would you like to do a literal search? And that's basically looking for that string of characters. But it's a much simpler search. It's essentially a string search, to use more technical jargon, on that sequence of characters.
But you would catch...
You're not going to catch...
in different cases.
Right. So, you're not going to catch... I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example. If I did... I don't know... something with Elohim, I'm not going to catch Elohe or Eloheinu or, so on. All right, so that's the Amplify menu. And again, most of the features in the Amplify menu are also in the right click. And we've tried to organize that so it's a little easier to find stuff. But you can't, the right click won't let you get to every resource in accordance. But one nice thing about amplifying too is that I am not limited in what I amplify to. For example, if I select Elohim, what's the most common kind of tool that I'm going to amplify to from a Hebrew text? Yeah, a Hebrew lexicon, right? So I select Elohim and I go to Hebrew lexicon and choose BDB or Halot, and I can look up that word. But and notice too that it will actually, when you're amplifying, will also take into account the scripture reference that you're amplifying from and highlight that for you. So this is the article on Elah with Genesis 1:1 highlighted. Okay, and then so that's kind of the obvious thing, go to a Greek lexicon. But I don't have to amplify to the appropriate tool. I can select Elohim and I can go into my Amplify menu and go to Anchor Bible Dictionary. And I think this will work. Things are getting slow again. Yeah, here we go. So here it recognized that Elohim is Hebrew. And so it was smart enough to know, well, don't search the entry or any of these other things. Search the Hebrew content for Elohim. And it found Gan Elohim. And it looks like we need a final noon there. I don't know, do you use a final noon before a makef? Okay, so we've got a typo that we just found in Anchor Bible Dictionary. But so you've got Gan Elohim, found the Hebrew word in an English dictionary. And then I can, select something else. I can do divine, and I can go to a Hebrew lexicon. And we'll see if we find anything in Halat related to the word divine. So it searches the English gloss to find Hebrew words that are defined, translated, using the word divine. All right. So in amplifying, you're not limited to choosing the right kind of resource for the right kind of information. You can select something and go to anything in your accordance library. And if the information's there, you'll find it. You may find that, oh no, Elohim wasn't in Anchor Bible Dictionary. It may not have been. But in that particular case, it was. All right. So let's see. We've got about 5 more minutes until we until we need to break for lunch. I've covered most of the items in the toolbar. The search selection and the atlas and the timeline you probably aren't seeing in your toolbars. I've actually customized my toolbar to include those items. And the search selection item is simply the top item in the amplify menu. All right, so I've kind of created a redundancy. The search current resource is the top item in the amplify menu. But I use that feature so much that I just want a single click. I don't want to have to go into the menu and click. So the feature is there for those of you who are lazy like me. You can add search selection to your toolbar. I do the same thing with the atlas and the timeline. The atlas and the timeline can both be accessed through the new and the amplify menus. But by putting the atlas in the toolbar, I can now amplify to it at a moment's notice. So if I'm, let's see, do I have an English text still? So here, here I have Jerusalem. So I can select Jerusalem and go to the Atlas button and choose a background color scheme, and it'll find Jerusalem on the map. So notice the Atlas icon on the toolbar functions like the Amplify menu if you have a selection. If I don't have a selection, it will just function like the new new menu and just open up a map and show me the map.
I'm not seeing the atlas under amplify.
It's down under map. We're kind of inconsistent in our terminology there, but map and timeline under all the tools. Okay. All right. So before I get into searching, I think we'll save that for next time. Let me finish up with the workspaces icon on the toolbar allows you to create your own workspaces that you can then amplify to or open up. So once you've got a setup that you like, just choose Add Workspace in that menu, and then you can access that setup anytime you want. I won't go into that any further. And the thing that I don't have room for on my toolbar now is the Help icon. Be sure to use our help. We've worked very hard to make it usable help, which is a rarity in in software these days. Most help, you open it up and you get a link to the web page or something. It's not very helpful. But our help has actually won awards for help systems in the industry. So be sure to use it. You can search. You can open up the navigation and navigate here. You can search the help. And a really cool little feature is if I'm in any window, I'm going to open up Preferences. And I believe we've even got a help icon on the preferences window, but you've also got in the window menu an item window help. And if you choose that, it will open up the help to the section on that particular window. So if you're going, okay, how do I use the stack? You know, let's open up the stack and we'll see how updated our help is. I'm going to do window menu, window help, which is, it looks like we don't have help on the stack. Okay, so forget that for the stack, apparently.
Mine is highlighted.
It's highlighted?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder why it's not on mine. All right.
Shortcut is command question mark.
I'm sorry?
The shortcut it says it's command question.
Okay. Yeah, command option question mark. Well, let me try that and see if it works. No, it's not working for me, but if you choose it from the stack, does it bring you to the help for the stack?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so maybe I got something glitchy going on my system, but all right, so be sure to take advantage of the help. And then the last item is the research. And the research lets you search not a particular text. So far, you know, everything that we've been doing, we've been searching a single text and getting our results down below in the display pane of that particular window. So if I search for 2 Samuel 11, it brought up 2 Samuel 11. If I search for Adam, it brought up Adam. But I've only searched that text. I haven't searched all my English Bibles for Adam and so on. If I want to do a library-wide search for Adam, I can enter Adam here, and I can choose my language. So I can choose to search English or Greek or Hebrew or Syriac. I can choose to search by scripture or even by image. So let's start with English. And I can choose whether I want to search everything or all of my texts. Let's just start with that. And it's telling me I have something that I need to check on the install. But it's now found Adam in every one of my texts, including the pseudepigrapha, and it's actually ranking them by the number of hits, the King James, and so on, all of my different Bibles. And we'll look more at what you can do with this search here. But that was all text. If I do all tools, it will search for it'll search all of my tools for Adam. And I haven't indexed in a while, so it's taken a little longer. Plus I have everything. But you can see here, even everything that's available in the Accordance Library isn't taking too long. And so you'll get your results sorted by category type, so dictionaries, commentaries, and I can select the item that I want, Rose Guide to, what was that? Rose Guide to End Times Prophecy, from first Adam to last Adam, and so on. So you can also do an image search. Let's see what we get if I do an image search for Adam. So if you're putting together a slideshow and you need images, go ahead and do the image search and see. Okay, we have Akkadian cylinder seals. We have some maps. We have Adam, which is actually a place. Impression of the so-called Adam and Eve seal. That's interesting. And let's go down to, if I go into my visual resources, Bible art has the creation of Adam by Michelangelo and some other Adam and Eve images and so on. So you can use this to do broad-based research of your entire library.